Welcome to the Gravel Lot, the place where bikes are for everyone.
The Gravel Lot podcast is presented by Be Free Ride Bikes Apparel, providing a fully customized cycling apparel experience to provide you and your team the attention to detail and personal touch that you deserve.
And also brought to you by Grimpour Brothers Coffee, offering handmade coffee roasted weekly in small batches to give you the finest quality coffee to start your day. Choose their subscription service and earn your free bag of coffee today.
Also by BioWheels Fit Studio and Workshop in Cincinnati, Ohio, offering you a full host of bike fitting services intended to provide the cycling enthusiast with the most efficient, comfortable, and sustainable bike fit they have ever had.
And by the Ritual All Natural Skincare, providing small batch, handmade chamois cream, custom blended for your team or shop right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Contact us today to learn more.
And by Hand Up Gloves. Great gear, better times. Providing a wide range of apparel for bikes, snow sports, and golf in multiple designs and fits to let your personality shine.
Our goal with the Gravel Lot is to inspire cyclists of all stripes to ride bikes, share their story, and have fun. We love all bikes and anyone who wants to ride them. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum of bikes, we'll always have a place for you in the Gravel Lot.
And now, the hosts of TGL, John Woolry and Doug McClintock.
Hey, hello again, and welcome back to the Gravel Lot, the place for all bikes. And no matter what ride that you are on, you will always have a place here in the Gravel Lot. So, my name's John, as always, and I am ever happy to be joined by my outstanding partner in crime, Doug, who is now, this week, he is on my other side. And as you'll notice, he has upgraded some technology this week, and he's got the mood lighting too. So we're trying to create a nice fade through both of our screens. So
artistic. So artistic.
Yes. We are so happy that you found us. So whether you're an existing Pebble or you are new to the show, welcome. And if you like what you hear, press the subscribe button, comment down below, follow us on all the social media places, and become one of our most loyal Pebbles and support us over on Patreon. You can find it at the Gravel Lot. You can find all of our links, all of our stuff, all that stuff at thegravellot.com.
Absolutely. So you're probably asking yourself, what do I get if I go support you on Patreon? Well, first of all, you get our endless and ever growing gratitude. But more than that, you actually have access to personal AMA videos, first dibs on upcoming guests, understanding who we've got in the pipeline and how we're about ready to make that happen, sneak peeks at projects that we are working on. We got a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pike here in 2021. And well, I mean, basically anything else that we can think of to toss your way. So you can submit any of your questions for the AMAs on all the social platforms or any of that contact form on our website, or you can use our new text/voicemail number, which I am worried about in a strange way because I'd love all of you. But you can get us at 513-400-5577. So 513-400-5577. Text us, voicemail, whatever. Leave us a message and let us know what you want to hear from us. We will answer that stuff on Patreon.
Hopefully we'll try and
we'll do our best.
Yeah, don't be that person. Like, ask us cool questions. Just don't be that person.
You can sort of be that person, but make it something that we want to answer. That'd be good.
Okay. I like that. That's a good challenge.
We would like to answer. So,
yeah.
So, with that out of the way, John, how's your ride been?
I feel like we were having some sort of standoff as to who was gonna kick this one off. This week, so I'll tell a little bit of a story first. So Saturday night, my wife had to work an open house for the college that she works at. It was remote, or it was digital, whatever the kids are calling it. But she came home and she was very upset, like just frustrated of hitting the wall that we're all hitting in this pandemic, and feeling restricted and feeling like you're just walking around with kind of cuffs on all the time, and you can't go do anything that you want to do to try and protect the ones that you love. So we had a long talk Saturday night and said, you know what, it's going to be 12 degrees in Southwest Ohio on Sunday. So what if we try and go to the outlet malls in Monroe, Ohio, which is just between Cincinnati and Middletown here in Southwest Ohio. Worst case scenario, we can walk around. We're outside. We don't need to go into any of the stores, whatever. So we went up there. It was empty because it was cold as balls.
12 degrees. 12 degrees.
And I got to restock my Converse supply. She got to go do some J. Crew window shopping and found some clearance items and got to kind of satiate some of that just desire to feel normal and not feel like all of your decisions are taken away from you. Now, the conversation we had was probably longer than the actual trip up to Monroe to the outlet mall and back, because
And that's a hike. It's a hike.
yeah, it's probably 30 miles one way for from where we are on the east side of Cincinnati. But it's trying to weigh and trying to make the best decisions for us, for our health, for the health of the people that are sensitive around us and that are within that risk factor, that haven't gotten their second vaccine shot yet, namely her father. And putting a lot of thought into just going to an outdoor shopping area. And come home Sunday afternoon, and then I see Instagram posts from Tyler, vegan cyclist, about going to Florida to race bikes for a multi-day race.
Whoosh.
He lives in Northern California, so he took his ride bikes van.
Northern California is not close to
It's
Florida.
kind of I mean, I have long arms, but it's longer than my arm span.
Right.
It's a long way to go ride bikes with you and two teammates. And it's nothing about this is me being critical of their decision, but I'm struggling with kind of rationalizing and coming to grips with why everybody feels the need to go do things like this. Like, we talked about it a little bit before the show, Doug and I did, of I get it if your livelihood is dependent on playing a sport or being
Sure.
in that administration or whatever the case may be. I
Yeah.
get it. You have to figure out how to make
Yeah.
make those things work, how to thread that needle, all of those cliches. You have to figure out what that is to keep food on the table and keep a roof over your head, all that stuff. I get that. I also understand the challenges of keeping businesses open while being safe, and restaurants and all of that stuff. Due respect to all of that piece of it. But bike racing, Cat 3, Cat 2, even Cat 1, you're not making mortgage payments doing Cat 1 races. You're just flexing. And I love bike racing. I love doing it. I love pushing myself. I love all of those things. But I love my father-in-law more than that. And I'm getting tired of having these conversations over and over again, of looking at statistics and people just saying, no, I need to go do that more. I need to go do my thing more because it's 99.4% likely or whatever.
Yeah.
Everybody that's listening to this, watching this, you can go see Phil Guyman's tweet from earlier today where he actually listed out the specific age brackets and the transmission rate and all of that stuff. But I'm just battling with that. I don't know how to come to grips with it, because I want to be cool with it. I want to be celebrating that people are trying to go back to their lives, but I'm also just I just don't get it. We've made it this far. There's almost 500,000 people. 500,000 of our fellow Americans are dead. I don't get why you need to go race bikes. I just don't get it. I just don't get it.
We're past the point of it being acceptable for me to allow people to make rationalizations, right? I could understand it a while ago. I think it was in a different space where I was like, well, I can make some rationalizations, but I have to go to work every single day or I don't get paid.
Right.
I am required to go to my job. If I could work remotely, I would, but I had to go shovel a butt ton of snow off of stations today because that's my job. And if I don't show up and do my job, I don't get paid, which means the mortgage doesn't get paid XYZ. I am nervous every single time I go out, even though Ellen is getting her second vaccination this week. My parents are both vaccinated. Everybody I know around me, all involved in healthcare, all getting vaccinated. I'm still worried that I'm going to get it and maybe it doesn't kill me, but I pass it to somebody. And I have to deal with that because I have to work. I have to. That is a prerequisite. Taking a risk like going to race my bike doesn't make sense to me at all. There's a whole bunch of other reasons I can unpack, but I understand this battle. We are past the point of rationalization. Just stop. If we're going to, like, I posted it in 2020 that bike racing was canceled. If we're freaking lucky and we all stop just for a little while longer, maybe we get cross season and it's flawless. But maybe not. Can we just?
I feel like this mindset is what got us to this point of like my thing is excluded because this and reading through some of the YouTube comments or he even, I think in his Instagram stories, he put something like this area is doing a really good job. They have really low ICU. I keep wanting to say UCI bed usage, which
it's basically the same
thing.
Really.
They have really
They're gonna
low
ban beds next.
Yeah, they have that's next. They have really low ICU bed usage and they're doing a really good job, so they feel comfortable doing this thing. But it becomes this like Ouroboros situation of like, if you're bringing all of these people in from, even if it's just all over the state or all over the country, and you're standing next to each other, you're doing things without like nobody wearing a mask. No, like I could get down with that if all of the spectators, all of that stuff were socially distant and wearing masks. Still pushing the boundaries for me, having everybody trying to drop 5.5 watts per kilo and flex and you know, do the PP measuring thing with each other. Being in close quarters and all of that stuff. But man, dude, like
I agree with you.
I can't, like, help me, like, listeners, people in the comments, like, help me understand this, help me get to a point where I can like make sense of it, because my brain wants to always rationalize things and come to some sort of conclusion with it, because there is a certain, like, there's a point for all of us where we need to start to take that step out of whatever bubble that we've built, whatever cocoon we've built, and make that step outward and then another step outward. And like thinking that I had made this huge accomplishment with my wife going to the outlet mall, and we only saw like 2 other customers, and we like did a thing that made us feel good, and then to come home and see that, and it's like we are on different planets in terms of like everybody's calibration, and maybe it's just because, like, I don't know, maybe they don't have somebody in their direct vicinity that is within that, you know, that Venn diagram of like, if they get it, then you are looking at funeral planning. Like, I don't know, and I want to understand it. I don't want to be pissed, but I'm pissed.
It's fine to be pissed. And frankly, Pebbles, if there's any of you out there that can rationalize this for John or me or anyone else and actually make a cogent argument,
I would love to hear it.
The Republicans would like to see you in Congress and the Senate chambers, because they're pooching that thing all bad, real bad today. So yeah, you know, we're just gassed up over here at the gravel lot because we've just been inhaling media that we probably just should turn off. But guess what? When you make media, you can't. Yeah. So John, I'm with you. I feel you. It is tough. There's no rationalization. People, just be freaking better and take care of your fellow humans, please, for crying out loud. Just do that.
Yeah, I'm tired of having the same conversation about transmission
for
rates and yeah, you're not a symptom carrier, but also like the idea of super spreader events has just become a joke anymore. It's almost hyperbole at this point of like being proud of it. And then, you know, of course, Sunday night again, what the Florida, all of the video from Tampa Bay and them out on the town and thinking, whatever.
Yeah, Tampa. Yeah, what? Okay, fine. We're off this topic. Yeah. We're off this topic because we could go on. This would be a whole show, but we have an important person with us tonight.
Now that we're all revved up,
about that. Now, remember, if you know this person, or even if you don't, please join us. Pop over to the AMA afterwards. Get your questions in on whatever format you're in, chat format, and get them into us, because we want to make sure that we get those questions answered for you. But I'm going to bring him along right now. We'll pop him in here if I can do this correctly and not blow up my computer. That's most important. So this week's guest is one of our personal friends and someone who happens to be an enormous part of our local cycling family. He may not necessarily be a household name to all of the Pebbles, but you will be after tonight. So in addition to moving new platforms, adding podcasts, doing all these things that we're doing, we think it's really important that we get more adventurous local folks who are doing cool stuff into part of our weekly storytelling. We've had them before, but we're trying to get them in on a regular basis. So that's why we've got our friend Michael Gottfried with us tonight. He has had an incredibly interesting and wandering path, much like myself and John, and we are excited for all of you to hear about it. So without further ado, Michael, welcome to the Gravel-Lot.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. Hi.
It's fun. It's just like hanging out, except
It is.
not.
With some technology and
Yeah.
whatever. It's fine. You were nervous today. I get nervous every recording day, even though we've done this a whole bunch of times. But it's good. So, yeah, we're just three friends. So for anyone who doesn't know Michael, he is one of us. He is like one of Doug and I's people. He actually rides on our team that we are a part of. So give us some patience if you don't know who he is. Give his story a listen because it is fantastic. And we are really looking forward to Doug's point of bringing more of these things and bringing more of these kind of local stories to you guys. So if you have somebody in your area, no matter where you're at, send them to us and kind of give us an idea of what their story is, because like that's what this whole thing is about, is telling cool stories. And people that
Everybody's got one.
Yeah, and people that win medals and win jerseys and things like that, like, yeah, their stories are cool too, but Michael's is pretty rad as well.
And Michael's won some medals and jerseys and stuff too, so we can discuss that.
I've done things.
You've done things, yes.
I've done things.
I've seen things I can't unsee.
Oh, yeah.
So Michael, if we gotta, you listen to the show, we want to start at the basic place. How did you discover bikes in your life? What was the kind of genesis of them moving into your space?
So it all kind of is a family event. So growing up as a kid, where we were in north central Ohio, which is, up by the lake, it was something that we could do as a family. So it wasn't necessarily like, oh, we're going to get a BMX bike. It was more like, oh, we're going to go as a family, as a unit, and go around like 5 mile. It wasn't anything big. For us, it was huge. 5 miles around country block. Whew.
Yeah. For a kid, that's a big distance.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the way it kind of started. From there, from as a family thing, some things occurred that kind of stopped that. Some of us grew up, moved on, and then basically was like more of a transportation device at that point in time. Because I live 5 miles out of town, and if I wanted to go in for football practice or lifting or whatever it was during the summer, it was like, okay, well, you can wake up mom and dad at 6 a.m. and have them drive you in, and then try and figure out how the hell you're going to get home, or grab your bike and go ride in. And so, me being me, I just grabbed the bike and started riding. I mean, it was one of those where it was like, okay, so you talk enough to enough people, like, oh, well, so how do I get a base? I'm like, well, you got to start running or you do something. And so 5 miles one way and 5 miles back. Do that, for an entire summer. You get a good base.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
So did you actually look at it as, because you mentioned it was transportation, but now you're talking about you were using it as part of supplemental to additional workouts,
I didn't
lifting
realize
weights, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I didn't realize like that whole entire base aspect of it until I think it was like my sophomore year of high school. It was some conversations with some coaches, special teams coaches, because I played football. And it was like, oh yeah, you just got to, just start doing that over and over and over and over again, and you do that. I forget how many times a week I did it, and it just started working out. And so during that time, I started making goals of how fast can I get into town, because the sooner I can get in, the sooner I can lift. It's basically what it was. So it was like, well, 5 miles in, if I can get in a half hour, great. That was the goal. It's like every single year, by the end of the summer, I'd be able to get in under a half hour.
I think that's cool because, like, you set a goal, not understanding what that training really looked like, or like what you were actually doing to do adaptation to your body, but your brain was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna set a goal, let's be a thing, I'll race myself every day. But you were really like, that's really, really good training for a student athlete. And also you weren't specializing, right? You were doing cardio work, which isn't always like, they're like, all right, guys, do some wind sprints, go around. They're not like, hey, go do 5
Sustained
miles,
efforts.
sustained efforts.
Yeah.
You know, that's not a
Well,
thing.
sustained efforts with punchy climbs.
Yeah. Well,
Even better.
Where you were in Ohio. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was all downhill anyways.
Well, eventually it is.
Yeah.
Well, living up by the lake, it's all downhill.
Right. True. So you were playing with bikes in that space in high school and using them as a way to cross train, but also for transportation. When did, if I understand your story correctly, they kind of started to walk away from your life? What was that time and transition like?
So when I got into college is when it basically like everything just kind of stopped. Kind of like a couple other people you had on here. You get into that whole entire 4 or 5 years, and it's like, oh well, I got a car, drive to and from wherever I needed to get. So it just was non-existent.
Right.
Where'd you go to school?
So it was like, yeah, it's like, okay, no, bikes are no longer a thing. Well, maybe a party trick, but different story. But yeah, and then they didn't come back until like 2008. So that would be well after I graduated from college is when they finally came in.
Okay.
Came back.
So let's kind of keep linear story
Yeah.
wise. So if you're playing football in high school, were stick and ball sports kind of a part of your life growing up, or were you sticking to football, or kind of what was that like?
So like growing up, like we played everything. So it wasn't like, not like how I kind of been seeing people days. It's like, so my parents' approach was, we're going to throw you in as many sports as you want and see whatever sticks. So and that's what it ended. So I ended up not liking baseball. So we didn't play baseball. I wasn't coordinated enough to do soccer. So didn't do soccer. Discovered I could lift and do a lot of power stuff. And football is kind of a family thing, you could say. And so it was just like one of those things, like a fish to water type thing.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's just path of least resistance.
Yeah, kind of, but not really. I mean, I did enjoy it, so it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to do it because everyone. No, it was enjoyable. So let's just make sure that was right. And then on the opposite end of it, I ended up doing track as well. So everything that I did when I was younger was all power and speed, not what I'm doing now.
No, that's interesting.
So what events in track? Because I'm just
So-
like thinking football, track, generally two wildly different body types. Again, generalizations.
Until you look at what I did, I was a sprinter. I was a sprinter and hurdler. So
Sure.
everything was power. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you what position do you play in football?
Mostly tight end and then inside backer.
Okay, yeah. So
I don't like
Power-
reliving those,
Again,
but
yeah, power.
power.
interesting. Okay, this is
Power
cool.
and hit things.
I want to file this. So when you're doing sports all through high school and all that stuff, as you started to transition to thinking about going to college, what were you being pulled towards at that time, and were sports part of your thought process going there? Because I think like all of us have something that we like get into when we're younger, that we're like, when I go to college, this will be the thing I'm going to do. And I was like, I want to go to IU because they have the little 500 and I could race my bike, which I'd never really done, and I can go there for theater. And I was like, those two things are good for me. Sweet, I'm going. So like, was sports part of that consideration? And
It was part of the consideration. I had a conversation, so it wouldn't be like one of those where I just kind of went in. It's like, no, I had a conversation to see if I get on the football team, and it was one of those where you're too small. Okay, all right. And I'm sure that if anyone who knows me, I'm 6 foot, and at that time I was like 170 soaking wet. Too small.
Yeah, you're my size. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did try go for track, and that lasted all of like 2 weeks.
So where did you go to college?
I went to Ohio Northern.
Okay.
So like track, like everything was all like secondary because everything was all based upon what my major was going to be, and actually is as a engineer.
Which that's a fairly strenuous course load. So I'm sure that having multiple sports on your docket was not a priority for the school, because they're probably weighing whether they want you as an alum, as a student, or as a potential athlete.
For the way it was more of a push of what all you could do while being able to maintain. So it wasn't like they were trying to say, no, you can't run track, or no, you can't do football. It's like, can you really do this?
Yeah.
And so it was like all right. So I discovered I just couldn't do the workload and the workload. So I couldn't do the academics and the running workload. I myself could not discover it. I did discover a few other things, but that's neither here nor there.
I think all three of us discovered some things in college that we didn't know existed, or maybe that we knew existed, but we had not. Yeah.
It happens.
I mean, that's how we grow, right? You discover different things. It is a seminal and important part of, I think, a lot of youth's lives is post high school, whatever that looks like, that period of time. We're all growing, we're all changing. And so you're leaning into engineering, which is still your profession and where you've ended up. When you were going through that process, what really attracted you to being an engineer? Why did you feel that was something you wanted to do?
I've thought about this, and it was something that occurred a long time ago, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but I just like the way things worked. Like if you ever get a chance, like, and take a look at how something's put together and how something functions, and then understanding exactly everything behind how it is, that kind of what really sparked it. So it's like playing with Legos growing up, or Tigger toys, or whatever the construction item that's currently on the market at the moment. But I mean, learning on how to be able to build something and make it into a functional device, or make it into something that's cool. I mean, shoot, there's so many cool different things I just built that did nothing. But that's
learn. What Legos are for, man. Yeah. Building cool stuff that does nothing, but it's cool.
Yeah.
So engineering, were you like, I want to be mechanical engineer, I want to be an electrical engineer, I want to be, a structural engineer? Did you have like some clue, or was that something you discovered a little bit later on?
No, I actually knew exactly what I wanted to be. The initial standpoint was to be mechanical, to go into aerospace, which really didn't pan out. Not that Northern couldn't do it, and not that I didn't have that launch pad to do it, to go into that realm. It's just that I discovered that being a mechanical engineer itself was something that was really, kind of like my cup of tea.
Yeah. So it's similar to that choosing football. Like, it kind of chose you, but you also kind of had predispositions to just being really good at that. And mechanical engineer, I've always felt like it's what my brother went to school for, and I feel like it's the more all-encompassing, that when you get into electrical or structural or aerospace, you're getting very, very specialized, where mechanical engineers have to understand aerodynamics, fluid dynamics, like structural dynamics, all of you're kind of responsible for all of it. So just knowing how your brain works and wanting to understand the who's and whys behind everything, it makes sense that you go into the one that is more all-encompassing than being kind of walled off in whether it's electrical, aerospace, whatever those things are.
Yeah, my thought pattern's just really weird when it starts getting there. I can actually take a look at something and partially understand what's going on without having to start tearing it apart. And yeah, it annoys my family a couple times a year.
Why is the TV in pieces, Michael? Just don't, I had to figure out what was going on.
Garage door.
I didn't know how this knob worked.
No, yeah. Garage door.
Oh, the garage door? What did you do?
No, it's like so it wouldn't be like the electrical items. It'd be like more mechanical things. I just start tearing things apart.
So can I make this faster if I take two?
Yeah, can I make it
door
better?
chain?
So
how much can I?
where do you think that came from? Is there any of that kind of engineering brain from mom or dad? Like where's that part of your brain coming from?
So I'd have to say, like, if you were to really look at it and go back, it would be actually my mom. Even though she's a teacher, she actually in Detroit. She grew up in Detroit. She actually grew up in the hood, but she actually had the chance to become and actually like platform into aerospace or aerospace engineering because she's kind of scary at times, put it that way. But she decided to go education. So some of that thought process came from there. And then my dad, considering the way I kind of think at times, being very scientific, my dad having the science background that he has, being a doctor, being able to think in those kind of realms and those kind of things.
Yeah, I would say growing up with a teacher who teaches people how to
Who could have
reason.
been in aerospace engineering.
Yeah,
And
right.
Like that's a nice
occasionally
like
says that.
underpinning.
Yeah.
Right. You have that, and you also have a doctor who does a lot of rational thinking. It sounds like if you had not ended up in that space, given your proclivities, that would have been kind of strange.
Yeah.
I do have to know this though. Do you have anyone who is wildly creative in the family though? Like, do you have somebody
Yes.
who's like way off in left field compared to everyone?
I wouldn't say off in left field. So my sister's an interior designer.
There you go.
But that's still problem solving. Like when you get into design and space planning, it's still it's pragmatism.
She's very artistic as well.
Okay, so that piece of it is like a different kind of function. But like when you get into like that's the thing that frustrates me when people say that you're a designer. Oh, you must be really artistic. Like
I was hoping for like jazz flutist. Like I was like,
all right. If we're going to go into that realm, you have to remember both me and my sister are classically trained violinists, and I'm also a classically trained violist.
Really?
What?
How long did you play the viola? And
I played for 6 years.
Okay, that's awesome.
So,
that's cool. I'm
okay.
I'm classically trained bassoon player.
Hold on. This is like, please educate the dumb redneck on the call right now of what does classically trained mean. I hear people say that, and anytime I hear people say that, I'm like, snooty. Like it immediately turns me off. Like you're like, I'm classically trained painter. Like shut up.
So it's like if you were to talk to Butch or someone playing guitar, and they're either a classic trained guitarist or a blues guitarist or trained in rock. It's a variation in how they're trained and how to play. So everything I was taught was in a classical manner. So like taking a look at like Mozart and how the methodologies in that, and then being able to transition all that from sheet music to the violin to make it sound almost like that.
Yeah.
And not saying that one's better than the other. It's just a way of teaching.
Sure. So when was this in our kind of Michael timeline?
This was like before college.
You were a busy kid.
Yes, I was.
We're
Best
and I also had 15 head of sheep at the time too.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
How does a doctor and a teacher end up with 15 sheep?
That is a story for a different day.
Okay. Okay. I mean,
right.
you say it, I have to ask, but
Gotta
okay.
know.
Yeah, that's fine.
No,
Visit 2.
We can talk about that offline.
Okay.
All right. So, hey, anytime sheep are involved, it's offline. All right. Offline
They still
conversation.
have them too.
We talk
Right.
about sheep.
Okay. So you're in between Doug and I age wise. So that kind of puts you graduated college like 03?
04.
Okay.
I did 5 years.
It's close.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're 2 years in front of me. So, and we've already kind of talked that there's a little bit of a gap until we get back to bikes, and we could slowly work our way there. But I think helping people understand where you were in your career will help us get to that next step. So, when you graduated college, what was your first kind of career move?
So it was moved back home. job market was kind of, well,
I mean, that's not, I mean, I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah. I mean, to say it that way, I know a lot of people kind of like cringe or whatnot that, have kids that are in college and they come home. It's not a bad thing. It's just what occurred for me due to the market and how I graduated. I wasn't actually the brightest when I graduated, but it was more of trying to get my foot in the door for a lot of different places. So moved back home, became a contractor in the automotive industry. Worked for a year in the automotive, and then being a contractor at that time, it was right before the floor dropped in automotive. And where I was located at, I was in here in Ohio is where I was working at one of the tier 1 facilities, and I saw the writing on the wall. And again, it's not one of those we're trying to say, oh, it was all a bad thing. No, it was things that you saw that are occurring. So you start seeing like product lines starting to diminish, non-reoccurring contracts, which have been occurring. You're seeing facilities pull product into your facility because they're shutting those doors down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the cycle of the market, which is an unfortunate thing to see happen, but it's also one of those where it's like going, well, what do you do and try to fix it when you see the next year? Because I left automotive 2004, 2006-ish area. 2006 is when you saw GM, Chrysler, and Ford just bottom.
Yeah,
and
everybody buckled.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody points to the 2008 is the like
housing crisis.
Yeah, when they feel like people started to feel the economic crisis, but that stuff doesn't happen in isolation. And that housing crisis was like the straw that broke the economy's back in that situation. But like that side of industry for even that part of Ohio, like there's so many. We're up by Cleveland for anyone that's not aware of kind of where Huron is. Just thinking of all of the industry that's left there, all the steel plants, all of the mills, all of that sort of stuff that's left since the 70s. Like that stuff happens over decades, and we're starting to get into these major funnels of billions of dollars that are kind of closing plants, taking things, leaving, not even necessarily taking their ball and going home. They just don't even have a ball anymore to play with.
And that's what occurred.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone wants to blame, local industry or whatever. No, it happens. And there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So this happens in that period of time, 2006, 2000.
Yeah. So I had ended up moving into electronics as a contractor. I was not a contractor. I actually became a full manufacturing engineer at 2 different places. I ended up working for a short period of time at a local printed circuit board manufacturer, kind of trying to get some more experience, and then ended up working over in Cleveland. And that point in time is when things go south in the market. So that was 2007, and that's when everything dropped, and electronics sees it before anyone else, just due to the speed that they run. So we can have a rev change. We can have 5 rev. So you could have 5 rev changes to a product line in a month in electronics.
Sure.
That's how fast they operate.
It's easy to spool that up. It's a small change. It's easy to address that. So this thing hits, you see it hit quick.
Yeah. So getting laid off, and you get laid off, it's like, what do you do? And no one's hiring, because all of a sudden with that layoff, there's people hiring, but all of a sudden you're starting to see all those jobs starting to disappear.
Yeah, it feels very similar to something else that's happened recently.
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then what's even weirder is that, like, after living on your own for a few years, you got to move back in with your parents again. Yes, that did happen. I moved in with my parents twice.
Hey. So okay, so let's talk about that. After being on your own, because I feel like there's a lot you can learn about yourself by whether it's living with roommates or living on your own, but just that whole concept of being out of the house, being responsible for your meals, being responsible for paying rent, gas, electric, all of that stuff. But then I've never had this experience of like I left and I never went back, and
Yeah.
I've been thankful for that because I think it would be really
You want to move
jarring
tomorrow.
It
to
was
do
an
that.
eye opener because you get into routines on your own that you're
Sure.
used to doing for however long you've been on your own, and then also you come back and you got to operate with other people. I mean, that would be a good thing. Not that I, not that I don't get along with my parents. I do. We get along very well, actually. I mean, shoot, I talked to my mom yesterday morning. I think either yesterday or today. Things blur together, but during those times of moving back in, there's a lot of animosity going back and forth. It was pretty tough. Because the second time I moved back, I had basically crashed out everything. I had no money.
Yeah.
The apartment I was living in was way over my head as far as expenses goes. Couldn't keep it up. I had $0. Credit card that was red. Next thing you know, it's like going, okay, well, what do I do?
So you're in this situation where there's a lot of other pressures, right? Familial pressures, we all deal with them differently. All that stuff's there. Regardless of your relationship with your family now, those things happen and they're legitimate. And we got to acknowledge that, right? A lot of people, as John said, are going through this sort of thing right now. They're going to be there. They're going to exist. As you're in that space, what started happening? What did you, I mean, I'm sure you're out interviewing, you're trying to make things happen. What did that period of your life look like?
It was depressing. So anyone who's going through this now or has been through this, there is light. There is hope. You just got to really work at it. So I had there were some bad times during that. So being without cash and not being able to do stuff, I reached out a couple times to get some side jobs from some friends that are doing side jobs, just to get cash so I can get gas, so I can go someplace.
Yeah.
To
Not be in the
interview.
same four walls.
Yeah. When things finally started meshing back up, and this is right before the market crashed, ended up taking an interview up in Detroit, which led me to my one employment. I ended up having to ask my mom for a ride. Literally, actually, you want to go to Detroit? I got to go to this one place to this headhunter and basically interview for a job that's in Ohio. Mom kind of looked at me and goes, all right, fine, let's go. So you drive from Norwalk to Detroit, sit down for an interview, drive home, wait for that call back. Luckily, it was a mass hiring. I ended up the company that was actually using the headhunter was trying to hire as many engineers as possible in the shortest amount of time. If people who aren't familiar with that, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword because you're trying to get whoever, but you're trying to fill spots that are recently created.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nebulousness that comes with that.
So
what's my actual job?
Right,
What am I actually doing?
Yeah. So the job ended up being within the tire industry. So little I know that there's a construction tire manufacturer in Northwest Ohio that actually built onto their existing plant another plant. The plant, like the project itself, was to be able to create and build a 63-inch tire. Now, so everyone understands 63-inch tire doesn't necessarily mean 63 inches round. Yeah, no, 63-inch is the actual rim size.
That's a big
And
tire.
the tire itself.
Oh, that one came out of no. I was like 63 inches. That's a pretty big tire, and then you just got me to that.
Oh no! It gets better, Doug. It's 12 foot tall.
Yes.
And it weighs 12,000 pounds.
Wow.
So there was a group of us that basically just went in, and being brought in on the tail end. Our responsibility was, how do you move said tire from machine to machine to machine?
Yeah, production. Yeah.
because come February 1st of 2008, the first tire has to come off or come out of the curing units. Seriously.
So, okay, before we address that, I'm wondering what their production schedule was. Like, how many 12-foot tall tires can you make
Yeah.
in a week?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Like
seriously.
the projected amount that they were supposed to do by the time I left that facility, I think it was produce 8 tires a day.
Jesus Christ.
That's 8.
That's
8.
still
So
like that's
Yeah.
so much manufacturing.
it's you'd be surprised on how labor intense producing construction tires is.
I'm
I
not.
actually, I don't think either of us would be actually, like, coming from tire industry and like spending a
Worked in the
lifetime in
steel
race
mill.
cars. Like,
Worked in a steel mill. I saw steel
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
made. Like,
So-
nope, it's a thing.
So there's a couple of videos out there. I think it's how it's made for construction tires, construction and mining tires. Anyone who's interested, it is well done. Discovery, I think it was Discovery that did it. We'll show you how these tires are actually made. And it was actually filmed in that facility.
okay, cool. So we can go get.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can put that in the show notes for the actual audio podcast.
Just the randomness of all that. So yeah. So just so you know, so 12,000 pounds, that's a lot of rubber. That's a lot of nylon. That's a lot of steel.
It's a lot of raw materials. That's
Yeah.
right.
So that first tire literally took us 32 hours to build. That very first one did.
Sure.
A lot of cranes, a lot of slings,
But this
a
is
lot of cursing.
cursing, frustrations, all of that stuff aside. But I feel like this is like you getting your life back on track, essentially, after being kind of not necessarily off the rails, because
Yeah.
you were bailed out by your parents, and they're, I mean, all parents love their children endlessly, like that's without question. But they were definitely a great safety net for you to have there to fall back on. But this is you, like, standing back up on your own 2 feet and figuring it out. So I'm sure that frustration kind of comes with a little bit of like, it's not as sour as frustration would have been before 2007.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You're like, oh, this sucks, but I have a paycheck. That's neat.
Well, it was nice because at the time before I became a full-time hire, it was I'm getting a paycheck and I'm getting a paycheck per diem.
Ooh, that's nice. That's always nice when you get a little bit of
Which
that.
actually led to how I bought my first mountain bike.
Ooh, so that's a great transition. So you are making loot. You're finally figuring it out. You're like, sweet, things are clicking, and you used that cash to buy a mountain bike. Why did you worry? Why were you like, you know what? I want to get a mountain bike. This seems like what I want to get.
So that all, if you know where Bryan, Ohio is, which is home of Ohio Art and Spangler Candy, 2 places to go check out. I mean, worth a day trip.
It's all the way. It's all the way up in the corner of Northwest Ohio. Like,
about the
all
second to
the way
last
up there.
exit.
Yeah.
Second to last exit on
Right
Turnpike.
before I hit PA.
Yeah.
Nope, other side.
No.
Oh.
Indiana, Fort Wayne.
Right before I hit the region.
Northwest, Doug.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
In middle of nowhere, nothing to do. There's some mental blocks I was trying to get across, and it's like, okay, so what can I do in order to get me out of Bryan? Well, I can drive back home every single weekend. I'm like, well, that's fine, but I'd rather go see other parts of the country. Well, mountain biking seems like the thing to do.
Really?
Yeah.
Just like out of nowhere. You were like,
some of it was kind of things I'd learned from my brother, because he was in adventure sports when he was in grad school, and kind of showed me how to urban assault a little bit on UT's campus. So that kind of sparked a little bit, and then knowing what you can do and where you can go with a mountain bike, it opened up the door to me being able to just basically get out of brine every single weekend.
Okay. So was going back to riding your bike to football practice, was that a road bike or was that a mountain bike?
I had a mountain bike, but I ended up stealing my dad's road bike.
Okay. I'm just,
And then
I'm trying to like, I get engineers, like most of my like closest people in my world are like engineering brains. So I kind of feel like I have an understanding of how they work, and it's never, decisions like that never come from ether. There's always some sort of rationale. So Doug, I appreciate that you asked the question of like, there has to be some sort of genesis of this to where it was like
Someone
one
planted
step
that seed.
to 2 steps to mountain bike.
So while all my friends had like BMX bikes and some Schwinn road bikes, my first personal bike that my parents had bought me for, I forget what birthday it was a Schwinn Sidewinder mountain bike, 26er. I forget how many speeds it was. Heavy as all get out. Didn't do so well doing 5 miles going into town, but I did hit some
Sweet jumps.
unsanctioned trails occasionally.
That's
I thought you
good.
were gonna say curbs.
Oh, I curb stomped so much on that thing.
So you decide to get a mountain bike as a methodology to get out of the thing. What were you traveling all over the Midwest at that time? What was your exposure to trail and mountain biking during that period of your life?
So during that period, I knew of a couple of trails that my brother was going on when he was still living in Ohio. So it was like, okay, so I'll kind of see if I can branch out from there and see what happens. Just so happened that there was a trail built in Napoleon. So if anyone who knows where Napoleon is, there's not a whole lot. And Campbell Soup, another good trip to do. There's a trail there that was built that was not exactly what you'd call like a trail that you're familiar with now. So it was like, go out, and first time I just bought the bike, I went to that trail and I rode the trail. Thought it was the best thing in the world. Just things started clicking at that point in time as far as bike, outdoors, woods, fun.
Huh. I like that it gets you into that space where you like actually get a click. So you fall in love with riding a mountain bike at that time. What does that escalation look like for you at that point? Like, is it immediate or does it ramp gently?
Gently. So like the first few years of riding a mountain bike, it was like, okay, I can kind of do this, and I'll get out like maybe like once a week. And then I had a buddy that would take me over so the first time I actually hit like a full built trail with standard IMBA standards was Findlay State Park.
Okay, yeah.
And I got crushed. So both of you guys can get a good chuckle out of that because you guys know me now. But back then, so that was, I think, like maybe an 8-mile trail.
Hold on. Just for a point of reference, like if it's an 8-mile trail, that's one thing. Michael showed up when we did our charity ride in Chillicothe. He showed up already having 60 miles in your legs ahead of time on trail. And he's like, hey guys, I think I'm gonna ride with you for a while. I was like, you're a moron.
Yeah. On a mixed kind of gravel road ride on his mountain bike, rode to the ride, did the 100K ride, rode home from the ride.
Yeah. So this is level. So 8 miles wrecking you is definitely my speed. This sounds
awesome. I know. Like I'm like, yes, I want to hear these stories because I know this version of Michael. I don't know that version.
We gotta back up. So my first time on a mountain bike on a trail, I did a bridge crossing, did not know about front suspension so much, totally OTB'd into a creek.
We've all done that.
So we have to have those stories to like fully appreciate this. So from there, so from Findlay, then all of a sudden finally my brother is like going, dude, have you gone up to hell? I'm like going, what? What's hell?
I don't want to go to hell.
Pinckney, Michigan, has the Potawatomi Trail. It's a multi-use trail. 18 miles, I think, is what it is. And overall, so first trip up there, and this is probably, I think, my third year of riding. And again, just get totally crushed. I mean, I go out there, I get to like the halfway mark, totally bonked. I'm not sure how the hell I'm gonna get home.
No,
Then again, I'm out in the woods. Been out in the
Yeah.
woods, enjoying life. I mean, it was great.
So were you between riding on trail systems, were you doing any like riding around the neighborhood or
No,
doing any other, so you were
no,
just
it'd
legitimately
just
just riding
be,
trail?
yeah, it'd just be a weekend ride. So if I was in the area, if I was still, because I'd have a couple trips I'd have to do occasionally for work. But if I had the opportunity to go, all of a sudden I'd load up my car and go someplace, go ride, come home, never gain any fitness.
Yeah, so this is interesting because as a student athlete in high school, right, you understood what it took to
Yeah.
build fitness, right? Like you knew like, hey, I got to like do this and go get strong so that I can explode off the line or so that I can run this 100-yard dash. You had that like that mental state. When in your riding career, as it were, did you finally start to put those pieces together and go, oh, if I want to do X, whatever it is, ride hell in a way, right? Because
And not die.
to not die.
It
We
was,
all
no,
have
that's a
those
good point.
watershed moments. Like, where was that for you?
So, like, I could get to a point within those first 3 years, I got to a point where I could actually ride, say, 18 miles and not feel totally cashed by the halfway mark. I mean, so I got to that point because I started picking up a little bit of running. Because part of this whole adventure was I was 250 pounds at the time.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, and not in a healthy way. And so it was more of I wanted to lose weight,
Hmm.
but it wasn't so much like I'm going to ride a bike and I'm going to lose weight. It was more like a side effect of riding a bike. So the more I rode, and even with running, because I also picked up running too. And so I'd go run, like I was actually running about every single day of the week, uh, and then ride on the weekends, but still no real fitness to be able to do extended period of times at a fast rate. It wasn't until until I got into my first race, until things started kind of like going okay, but it took a year before knowing that I needed to have fitness.
So what led to, there's a big difference between going on a weekend ride at your local trail and getting smashed, even if you're just by yourself, of just trying to finish that trail,
Yeah.
to giving somebody money, putting a number on the front of your bike, and then lining up with a bunch of other hooligans to go
It was,
race bikes.
it
Like
was
there's a
kind of a
big gap between those two things. So what for you was that transition of going from, like, what led to that first bike race?
kind of a dare from an ex-girlfriend.
Good motivation.
I like it. It's good. That's very good.
It,
That's
Yeah.
it was one of those where it's like going, well, Jeremiah hit it on it pretty good last week when he mentioned getting into bike racing is not easy. Like there's very little like fanfare as far as a lot of races go, especially from 2008 to 2010.
Yeah.
Social media just started really picking up as far as advertising anything like this. So there was a group in the Cleveland area called 331 Racing, and I don't know what season it was for them as far as doing their spring series, and they did a race at Vultures now for the spring series. It somehow managed to get into my feed of this is something you should look at doing, and like going, okay, well, I'll go and check out the trail. And I ended up parking going, parking. I had the money anyways. Rode the trail around. I'm like, okay, maybe not. Go back to my car, try and pull out, and got parked in. Quite literally got parked in. So it's like, well, you can just sit here and do nothing for however long it takes until this whoever it was to move, or here's $20. Give me a number plate.
How'd that first race go?
Sucked. DFL 2 flats.
Same tire, 2 flats?
Same tire.
Whew.
Yeah.
Woof. How do you come back for more from that?
The way my mind works, very competitive. So it's like, okay, so I did one. Maybe I can do better on my next one. Slightly better. And it just progressed from there. But instead of being able to do the whole series, because I ended up picking and choosing, because there's some races that were just way out there. And this is before I found out about OMBC or any races in Michigan or any races in Indiana. So it's like, okay, so it was a race, it was a group. One of the things that really helped out on having me return, it wasn't so much of just me feeling like crap and I can do better. It was the environment, the people that surrounded me type thing. So it wasn't like, oh, these are my people. It's like, well, the MC all of a sudden treated everyone like they're the rock star. Rody Walters, if you know Rody would make anyone feel welcome at any event. You can come in DFL, he'll still cheer you on. Dustin Kloss is another one. Yeah. So I mean, like Rody's very energetic. He could put Scott Herman to shame as far as being an MC on a mic.
Ooh,
yeah,
shots fired.
Hey, those are fighting words, Scott Herman.
I know.
When Scott Herman, now we're gonna have a WrestleMania, the Gravelot WrestleMania, but we'll only do it with mics. But those sort of people build that like reason that you want to come back and keep digging. So you're doing these races, you start getting involved in racing. What was the trajectory for you during the racing thing? Like how did that progress, and what did that was it like a fast timeline, or did it just plod along? Because we're here in like 2021 and you're doing something vastly different than what's effectively an OMBC race,
short track race.
Yeah. So like I mean, to think short term is one thing. So like the first year just sucked. I mean, like you go to race, you don't know anything about racing. I mean, former athlete, thinking he's an athlete, thinking you're top of the world.
Yeah.
And just getting your teeth knocked in.
Any first year of anything is just be ready. If it's not that, then somehow you're lucky.
And then this is the interesting part. And then I decided to do something stupid and caused me to this is where it's going to get fun. So I decided to enter into a sprint triathlon and thought I was going to be a triathlete because I romanticized about being an Ironman. Who doesn't want to be that guy?
I get that. It's a like we've talked about it on the show a lot. It's one of those things like you can put it up on the wall and go get it. Like it's a big damn accomplishment to go like to like it's easy to make fun of the people when you see the Iron Man tattoo, but like every time I see one, I'm like, good for you.
That's the thing. You did.
Yeah, like you did something bananas.
Well, I think you can get one. It's
but you got to complete it first.
No one's saying that you can't. There's a long ball game, Michael.
Oh no, it's not how it works. You got to complete it in order to get it.
That's correct.
That's how this works.
But it's a long ball game. You have plenty of years on this spinning globe. You can go do this.
So that first sprint triathlon, my first and last sprint triathlon, I failed. First DNF I've ever had.
Okay, so what led to that?
So it was a whole lot of not being ready. I mean, had the bike down. I thought I had the bike and the run down. I thought I could power through the swim. I mean, shoot, first year of racing, thought I was top of the world. Thought I was indestructible. Made it about 50 yards, got punched like twice, maybe more, got kicked a few times, and then my fear of open water kicked in and just froze. Just couldn't complete it. Get yanked out by the chief fireman.
I don't feel like that is a definition of failure because, we talked about this a little bit in kind of the green room before recording.
Yeah.
Anytime somebody tells stories about triathlon, I just go to our episode with Celine and
Mhm.
how casually she told stories about getting kicked in the face or getting punched in the back or pushing the person below her in the like club sandwich of triathletes deeper into the water. Super casual, just like, yeah, I got kicked in the face. And I'm like, no, I would it would be one of those things where you would have tears coming out of your face, but you were like so mad and you're like crying and you're mad and you're frustrated and you just want to like yell at stuff like that would be my reaction. Like it would trigger all of the brain chemistry and all of the fight or flight stuff.
So in order for the way my mind works, I saw it as a failure. I went and did something and I failed at it. And I didn't fully comprehend why I failed. Other than I don't like getting punched and kicked and I have a fear of open water. So I mean, taking that DNF, I mean, that was a I've never DNF'd.
Yeah.
Ever. So it's like, so what do you do? Well, most logical people would probably say, well, I'm not going to do that again and just kind of go back to, ride a bike on weekend and have fun. I ended up on my drive home, stopped at a bookstore and bought 6 different books on how to be a cyclist, how to be a triathlete, and how to train for these events.
So the engineer kicked in.
Oh yeah.
So okay,
I will solve this problem. I will solve this problem.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that process a little bit because it sounds like, and you described it very shortly, but I kind of want you to walk us through it a little bit more in depth. That grieving process of going through the DNF, because like we've gotten to witness it, whether it's ourselves or friends. Like for me, the most visceral one was picking up Pete in the middle of BFE Ohio when it's 112 degrees and he's, borderline heat stroke. Like watching that, I did not look at that as a DNF. I looked at that as I was saving one of my really good friends' lives. Like very different than what that felt like for him because he felt like he failed. But he showed up for the next event that was on his schedule. And I think you have to go through some sort of grieving process to get to the point where your brain jumps in. It's like, no, I'm going to get you through this, Michael. So can you walk us through kind of getting plucked out of the water, going back to your car, feeling sorry for yourself, moping, or like walk us through your 20 minutes or so of that trauma.
Yeah, and beyond that, how you turn the corner to show up at the next one.
It was a lot of cursing. I mean, there was
scientifically proven to make you feel better about certain situations.
It just eliminates pain.
The thing is that, like, granted, you guys know me, you don't hear me curse often. I did not curse out loud. So it was a lot of mental cursing. There was a lot of self-deprivation would be a good way to put it. So it was like, okay, so I'm not good enough. I can't do this. Why did I even think this initially? And because it was Norwalk Triathlon. The gentleman, the director of the rec center, who was one of my former bosses, kind of saw me. We chatted a little bit, and he kind of got me feeling a little bit better, but nothing that can take away the full sting of you weren't able to complete it.
Yeah.
And then my parents showed up as well, and it was like some conversations of okay, so okay, what are you going to do next? No, that was actually the question. It's like, so what next? I mean, so you start figuring out, okay, so do you want to keep going down this road, or are you done with it? well, I'm bullheaded. So I'm like, okay, so we're going to continue. We're going to figure out how we're going to do this. And so that's where it's like, okay, so how am I going to do this? And then it was just like stopped at a Barnes and Noble. I think I stopped in Toledo or Swanton or which outlet it was, and walked into a Barnes and Noble and just went into their sports section and found what they had and started looking. Okay, what's this one going to do? What's this one? I still have those books today. I still reference them actually on a few things that Ryan may provide for me as far as a workout, just to understand what's going on. So that's how the thought process was. And then it was like, from there, it's like, okay, I know how to do workouts. I know how to create workouts because I was doing it before I graduated high school for doing sprints, everything power-based. So kind of understanding a little bit of that, but not understanding intervals. So there was a lot of reaching out to friends who had raced BMX in their youth and were nationally known at the time in their youth, and how they went about some of that. So that's how it started.
It's good to have people that you can reach out to at least be like, am I thinking about this right? Especially when
am I doing this right?
Something.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to get into something where you don't necessarily, as we said before, as Jeremiah talked about last week, have someone who's ready to guide you through all of this, right? Like, we all wish we had the magical person who is like, come with me, young Padawan. I will guide you through this thing.
Oh.
You make no mistakes. A lot of us have to hack it around and figure it out ourselves.
Yeah. So I'd say for about a month, it was like a lot of hack and slash, basically. Trying to figure out how to do things. If I would known now what I know then, I would have reached out for a coach and gone.
You would have been done. You would have been good.
No, it would have been a no-brainer. But it was
tattooed yesterday.
But it was but everything I was reading, getting a coach or doing some of this was taboo. So some of the articles I was reading, and I forget where some of those were. It was before I got some of those books. It was like, okay, so you want to get a coach? You sure you want to do that? And kind of list all these reasons why not. So I'd say it was hack and slash of Chris Carmichael program that was written under the Lance name. So if anyone has that book, it's a good book as far as how to start yourself within getting fitness and being able to start off as a racer in a way, but it wouldn't necessarily be one that you'd want to use for long term.
Just hire a coach.
Yeah. And it's funny that you're in this weird transition phase of, I feel like we've moved cycling culture enough to where, this is me after doing my rant this morning or earlier about
the beginning of the show.
The beginning of the show about like basically men being men and trying to show off to other men, and that's where a lot of that, don't get a coach because you can don't be don't be a sissy or don't be whatever word you want to insert there. Like, it was macho-ness. It was just nonsense. Yeah. And it's interesting that that's kind of where you started, and then you've been around the athletic sphere long enough to kind of see it almost come a complete 180 to where that is. People are getting coaches to do 5Ks, couch to 5K and things like that. And it has become more normalized, but and I think for your brain and for pretty much anybody, finding any resource like that is great because it helps you understand what you don't know. Because I think where you were probably struggling was you kind of understood a little bit about fitness, but then applying it to yourself is always really, really difficult because you can't be as pragmatic. And for anything endurance related, the things that we always say catch you up is that you don't know the things you don't know, and those are always the one that bite you in the ass. And for this, it's Carmichael, and it's talking about the training plan he put together personally for Lance and blah, blah, blah. And that's what's all responsible for his success. And they made a ton of money, Carmichael Training Systems, from 2000 to 2010 before the wheels came off. But there's still validity in at least engaging in reading that content and understanding kind of some of the basics of how those things work.
Yeah. So, I mean, not to get too far into that Carmichael aspect of things, but the program that he had put together is what I used. And to be honest, like,
Where's your yellow jersey?
screw that.
It's in Austin. It's hanging on the wall in Austin.
That was before. So we can get into the whole entire other aspect of things and how my mind works on that. And
no. That's a whole
Yeah,
separate.
no, we're good.
I just was wondering, just was checking, just messing with you.
So you buy those books, but it was like, okay, so how do you get fitness? It's like, well, ride your bike. Well, living in Northwest Ohio, it's like going, okay, yeah,
I grew up there.
Understand.
I grew up there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up buying a roller set. Put my mountain bike, bought some slicks for my mountain bike, put my mountain bike on a roller set. And I had bought I also, did I buy that? No, I didn't buy that triathlon. Yeah, I did buy that triathlon bike at that point in time too. So so starting to build on, in order to get better at riding your bike, you got to ride your bike. It's basically the aspect that you're doing. So you just start riding the bike. So
just like you did when you were in high school, right?
Yeah.
Just like you were in high school, to get just ride your bike. You could get it under a half hour if you just kept riding your bike.
Yeah. So I've not up before then, just like riding your bike to get fitness. It didn't click at first. So it took like most of that winter and a lot of roller sessions and a guy who wasn't necessarily coordinated on rollers. So it became very interesting.
Flying off into the couch.
I got good at balancing in a door frame.
Yeah,
that's the pro move.
Yeah. So it was a lot of that. So learning that you're not supposed to go and do a binge ride, go out and ride for 8 hours when starting off. Because I do have 8-hour rides now, but
that's basically.
But it was understanding that, and then being able to understand that you're supposed to be able to do some kind of intensity interval, or you're supposed to do some kind of higher RPM interval, and things, and understanding that, and then being able to bridge that into cycling. So that whole entire winter was like, oh crap. And then come spring, 331 started off their spring session again, and I signed back up. I go, well, let's see what happens. And yeah, you want to piss off some people really, really fast. Do 3 races and have like a 2 to 4 minute gap.
So, okay, I think this is worth talking about because you made a very conscious decision to move towards like full commitment on gaining fitness. But nowhere in that did you say I was going to kick triathlon's ass, or I was going to focus on being a mountain biker, or I was going to focus on a spring crit series or roads, whatever the case may be. You just talked about getting fit.
Yeah.
So,
because I didn't have a focus. I wanted to do triathlon, so I'd be doing swim sessions, run sessions, and then bike sessions. So initially it was, well, I'm going to do this. But in the back of my head, it was like going, you do remember you have a fear of water. And every single time I got in the pool, it was, you have a fear of water.
Yeah.
And it kept on, and it kept building. Did that stop me from going in and doing a swim session? No. I couldn't get past that opening fear of, I'm going to focus mainly on triathlon. And then all of a sudden became, I'm going to focus on being a cyclist? ?
So, okay. But and see, this is where I go back to. This is always my main source of like awe of triathletes is the amount of work, even for sprint triathlons, the amount of work and TSS to get pretty nerdy, the training stress score that you put in a given week in the pool, in the shoes, in the saddle, to cover all of your bases and to do the work in those specific venues. Do you think, looking back on it, that doing all of that work was helping you move towards being an endurance mountain bike racer? Like,
Yes.
you were already doing these
Yeah, the
big
volume.
blocks of volume.
Yeah.
And then you take that much work. If you're training to do any sort of distance triathlon, and then you go to some sort of cross country event that is an hour or hour and a half, watch out, because you're gonna be able to redline way harder for way longer than everyone else because you just have so much volume in your legs.
So like the endurance aspect, it didn't click in my head until I did my first 100K.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well,
Why did that click? Why did that click at that time?
Because some of it made, well, it's not so much the sessions. It was more of I can do this for this long. I can be out in nature for this long, and I can enjoy it without having to die.
See, that
Because you were
that
fit.
last one always, that last one
Yeah,
always
yeah,
catches
yeah.
me.
It was kind of important because my first 100K was Mohican 100.
Okay, so we had the story of the first bike race.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the first triathlon.
Yeah, going and doing 62 miles at Mohican as your first kind of endurance event. Like, one, why was that your first one? And two, what led to even you like wanting to be like, okay, well, I'm having
Beer.
success like in these short track events. Why not make
Beer.
it longer? Oh, beer. Okay.
Beer?
Well,
Beer.
Oh, was it like beer after something where you made a decision?
So it was, I forget what race it was. It was one of the VK races. I was sitting around, we're sitting around the bonfire because they usually did a bonfire post race with my buddy Randy. He's like, hey, what do you think about doing the 100K? The hell's 100K? It's like, oh yeah, Mohican 100K. Sure, why not?
It's metric. It's like half a mile. It's not.
it's not that far.
We
don't understand the metric
it's
system.
nothing. It's nothing. Yeah, so I mean that's how it kind of started, and why Mohican was. If you're not familiar with the overall race scene for mountain biking, and you're trying to get into something that's local, and just say you happen to go to Bike Reg and type in 100K mountain bike race, first one that pops up is going to be Mohican 100.
Yeah, especially if you're local and it knows and it's geolocating you. It's the big one.
Yeah. And this is before all the gravel stuff, and so that's the first thing that popped up. It's the only thing I knew. Didn't know anything that's going on in PA. Didn't know about Michigan. Well, I kind of knew about some Michigan stuff, but
West Virginia, a bunch of stuff now. But
so it just first 100K. How did that 100K go?
Yeah.
Better than my first bike race, but just barely. So my first 100K, I finished, I think it was in like 7 hours, 7.5, I think, 7.5 or so.
I'd be happy to do that.
I was hurting. I was hurting pretty bad.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
So after finish my 100K, when endurance started clicking, I decided to go the week following back up to hell and decided to do 3 laps because I'm stupid.
So 54 miles, just shy of 100K.
Yeah.
Math.
Just on your own.
Yeah.
I learned about overtraining.
I would, that happens fast.
It happens faster than you know. not paying attention to warning signs, start doing some things that you shouldn't do, your volume does not. I should have had a coach. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I should have had a coach.
So you went up there by yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, there were some things that led me up there. A passing of my uncle. So it was a stop between Bryan to Detroit. So I went there, in his honor, because he was a marathoner.
Yeah.
So he was a marathoner. So went up, did 2 laps, and then a guy wanted to see the trail, so I took him around for a 3rd lap.
Sometimes you just gotta pedal that stuff out.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I feel like I know you, and I feel like people that are friends with you and follow you on Facebook, you do a lot of your training by yourself. But there's something that I'm noticing as a through line through this entire conversation is the majority of all of the big decisions you have made in your life have revolved around being around some sort of family, some sort of community. And there's a whole segment of your life that we haven't touched on that I was actually excited for people to hear about, but I feel like it can be, when we come back to talk to you again, we can talk about your life as a professional gamer. But
yeah,
I think
That's why we have all these cool lights.
Just the consistency of all of that is it all of those major decisions are made around, hey, this friend says to do this. This friend is into BMX bikes, or my brother got me into urban assault, which is cool mountain biking. It's just concrete instead of dirt. There's so many of these things always revolve back around being around community. And then when you're by yourself, you have consistently made, I don't want to call them poor choices, but
that was early
you've
on.
put yourself in learning experiences.
Yes.
We'll say that.
Yes.
Because as things progress, the whole me doing stupid things has changed. As far as that goes, as far as being on my own and being able to do stuff. But early on, it was because I didn't know a whole lot of stuff. So it was like, okay, so who can I ask? Well, John knows, or actually Phil. I talked to my friend Phil a lot. He was a former BMXer. So it was like, all right, Phil, so what do I do? How do I do this? And then as things progress, and all of a sudden finally be like people like Kenny Kosaric, start asking him questions on some stuff. And granted, at that point in time, he kind of didn't really like me for various reasons, but that was mostly because I kept bashing teeth in. Or start asking some other people, questions. And that's kind of how it built. And so if you don't have people you can talk to about that, it makes making overall decisions harder. Because if you aren't willing to learn about something, you end up making worse mistakes. I actually learned that very, very hard on multiple things very early on.
So with that specifically, bike racing aside, how do you think learning that I don't want to say adaptation in your life has changed you outside of bikes? Like, you've learned this thing by not asking those questions and putting yourself in the hurt locker repeatedly by making those decisions. How do you think that's changed Michael in other spaces?
It's taken me to more of a realm of thinking stoically. So being able to observe, gather information, and then all of a sudden be able to try and decide what is best based upon the information that I've gathered or upon what has been presented. That would possibly give the best possible output. Some of that's actually an engineering thought process.
Right. I was just going to say, you're just basically being an engineer.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, if I push this button,
right,
what is this outcome?
It's going to go. So if I don't push the red button, I won't get hit in the face. So I mean, a good example of that was when I actually moved to Dayton. I was trying to find an apartment, and the thing was, with me, I had little money, and everyone, of course, everyone all was requiring a down payment. It's like, okay, so what can I afford as the down payment? What can I afford for a month? What can I afford for, you start doing that, and all of a sudden, finally, it's like, all right, so I know what those are the knowns. What can I do? And then all of a sudden, it was create a matrix. It was ended up being an Excel sheet, and kind of how I decided how I got down here, and how I got in my first place down here, and how that, I mean, but that's how I kind of learned from that aspect, which also led me in how I got a coach. Same aspect.
Okay, so the flip side of that question, exact same question, and what has endurance sport and learning through those failures taught you about Michael? Like from an emotional perspective.
Everything can be worked out. So as something goes bad, and it continuously goes bad, well, stop with anything. Oh, no. I mean, because
no. I enjoy the simplicity of that. It's true.
It's like, so a good way of looking at it was my last round up at the Crusher, which I ended up having to run. All right, we want to get to that story, we can. But at one point in time, I had I started having some issues with my feet, and I started having problems with my legs. So the first thing to do was not necessarily to push, which is what I used to do in the past. Just muscle through it, power through it, bullheaded. No, it's like, all right, so what's going on? Well, feet are hurting. Why are my feet hurting? All right, let's stop and assess what's going on. Okay, what can I fix? What can't I fix? And some of that was again, I had talked for, well, I only had 2 weeks to prepare, but I talked for 2 weeks straight with a guy who was doing ultra running. I asked him, okay, so what do you do when this stuff starts occurring? So you get blisters, you start having, hot spots, how do I go about this? And Scott basically goes, all right, this is what I use for this. This is what you do for this. I mean, once you start seeing something occur, you have to address it immediately. And that's kind of how going through endurance sports has kind of affected my life. It's like all of a sudden something starts going bad. All of a sudden it's like, okay, what can I do? How do I fix it? You start going through the whole entire thought process of how to do it.
Instead of letting it just kind of sit and
because if you let it sit, it gets worse.
Yeah.
So if something's going bad, it never just magically fixes itself and makes itself better. It just gets worse.
Takes action.
So
and sometimes it may end up being that you have to pull the plug. I mean,
right.
Sure.
So let me ask this. We were talking again before the show, and you mentioned you had some periods in your life where you were unhappy, you were aggressive, you were just not, maybe not mature, not happy, just in a bad state. Do you think that endurance sport or finding cycling, finding triathlon, finding any of these endurance longer sports helped you move past that? Or do you feel like those things are still there and these sports have given you a way to manage those things that are inside you?
So the one thing, in order to address that, one thing, because I know I do have some depression issues and things like that occurred from jobs and from some other things.
Completely rightfully so, with the things that you've gone through in your career personally.
So those things will never go away, no matter what you do, no matter what anyone says. Well, you're over. No, you never will get over that. So what I have found is that, and it's actually something that Joe discovered on his own too, Joe Lawhorn, was that doing some of these longer events allowed me to actually focus on one thing. So instead of focusing on, because my mind kind of scattershot stuff, so going out and doing a 40-mile gravel ride on my mountain bike, which will require me to do, depending on where I'm at, 4 to 6 hours. All I have to focus on is pedaling the bike, staying upright, feeding myself, and maybe a thought problem, one thought problem. And so it was like, so being able to have that moment, or those moments of being able to just not worry about anything else. Nothing else can affect that.
I think there are a lot of people who are in endurance sport, any number of places, that say something similar, like, I need it to be able to quiet and turn all of these other pieces of myself off. And I think anyone who finds that kind of flow state, whether it's riding a trail or riding their bike down a bike path or whatever it is, where you're able to turn off other pieces and just purely be in the moment you are, whatever it is, whether it's,
Yeah.
ice skating or, skiing or whatever, the other things become predominantly your focus, such that you are making sure that you're like preserving yourself. You're able to turn off those other pieces of you. And I don't, we always talk about how, cycling can be so much of a coping mechanism for a lot of people, but it also can be a tool. And if you're using it correctly as a tool, and you understand that you're using it as a tool, you can respect it as such and not let it become a crutch. And I think that's a difficult balance, but it seems like you're striking that in your space, where you're able to use it as a tool for Michael to be able to deal with Michael's stuff.
Yeah.
And balance this.
Especially in the last 3 years, if we can get into what occurred 4 years ago. But in the last 3 years, it's been a lot of, like, granted, I've had a lot of, Ryan and I've worked with a lot of stuff as far as being able to project where I'm at now. But a lot of the rides that we've done, or I've done, accordingly, like those 6-hour rides, those 7-hour rides, 8-hour rides, not necessarily races, but those longer rides have allowed me just to basically just go out and enjoy. Now, granted, I'm beating my brains in, but but a lot of people don't realize that I actually see a lot more by being able to be out in nature that way. There can be conversations about, being able to observe things while on the bike at a high rate of speed, or even running, things that most people don't really notice. And being able to see it that way allows me to be able to just kind of reset in some ways. So yeah, it's helped, especially with some other problems that have occurred.
Well, you mentioned it there. What happened 4 years ago?
So 4 years ago, I ended up breaking my collarbone right in half, uh, and that was 3 months of just pure, just, I'm not going to say how, it was bad. So imagine living on your own for, say, good 8 years, and then having your mom move back in with you again.
Yeah, because you can't do anything.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So it's not that I didn't want her to have her move in. So there's some underlying things that also occurred during that entire break. So I ended up having a concussion.
So
Still have the helmets.
This is again back to Mohican, right?
Mohican 100. The incident that occurred, ended up getting my bars crossed with another person, doing 35 miles an hour before the first climb out of the city, and threw myself a good 100 feet. I'm sure some other people can give a better description of what occurred, but imagine dead sailor to ragdoll.
That's not a licensed figure skating move. You're not allowed to do that.
No, and I slid on my face for a good 100 feet.
Ow. Yeah. And yeah, I remember that happening, and remember like watching your social feed after, and after like it became clear that you were okay, because I heard through the grapevine from a couple people that were there that you had gotten hurt and that it wasn't good, that you were in the ambulance and on your way to the hospital, and
Yeah.
like it's like, oh no, this is bad, because, and also knowing where it happened, which tells a lot about, without even hearing the story, knowing that it happened on the road before the first climb, when you're trying to kind of set some decisions within the field, in the actual competition of the race. Say whatever you want about like, oh, it's too early in the race to be doing that kind of stuff, but for trail
That's where that
races, it
happens.
matters. Yeah, that's where that stuff happens.
Well,
So
for endurance races, yes and no. So if people understand that particular race, it's 5 miles of road before you hit any kind of single track, double track. So making a move and decision like that from a racer aspect, not from a promoter or whatnot, just from a racer aspect, allowing moves like that and doing moves like that becomes very dangerous in an opening start, especially as you're going downhill, going into an uphill. And we can break down all the aspects of that, but I just know that coming out of that crash, I'm sure Ryan could probably tell you more of what's going through my head as I was starting to rebuild myself, but I just know from my aspect, things weren't right. I did go into a dark place for a little bit until I could get back onto a bike. It was a month before I could get back onto a bike. And then it was almost a month before I even got back outside.
was there a point in those 2 months where you thought about just walking away?
Yeah, there was, but it didn't last long. So you have to imagine just imagine living with someone for a month, and every single month they tell you should stop. Every single day, at least once.
Yeah.
And being competitive, so this is going to be the fun part. Both of us being competitive, the one had the goal of just making sure I was healed. I had the goal at that point in time to get back on a bike.
Right.
Racing wasn't even thought. It wasn't even in. Well, I did toy with saying whether or not I could get into lumberjack or do some other. That's beside the point. That was more of a joke thing. But to show how competitive it was, my mom basically requested a blue ribbon if I healed up correctly.
Did you get her one?
So in order for her to get it, my dad went in with me to the ortho. Dad happened to know the ortho, by the way.
Yes, good.
It happens when you work in a small town and you are a family practitioner who happens to, been in work there for 40 years. Yeah, you tend to know.
It's cheers. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, everybody knows everyone. Yep.
So once Pocos told my dad that, yeah, we're on the correct path, and she no longer has to stay with him or stay with me, things were healing right. So I happen to have a blue ribbon from my many years of showing sheep.
There you go. Yes, it was. Yes, one of the sheep ribbons.
Full circle. I love it.
I love it.
To understand some of my competitiveness, there you go.
It's interesting because that it can be tough because you two are at cross purposes to some extent, but
yeah,
really, as John said before, family always wants to make sure you're okay, and your mom was there to help you through that, even though you were struggling with a bunch of other pieces of that, and that is always hard to get through those spaces.
Yeah,
but that also probably helped that she made sure you were doing or not doing the things you needed to be not doing.
Oh God, I got yelled at so often. But what was, don't lift your arm. Quit swinging your arm. Don't. No, I was in a figure eight for 4 weeks. No sling. Uh, yeah, it was no pain meds.
Oof.
That's the fun one. But yeah. You get offered the script for OxyContin and you turn it down. Again, we can go into some more of that other
Well,
aspect in a different conversation.
I think I think the listeners in season 1 probably got that walking through it week by week with Doug and I when Amanda was going through broken leg tib
Mm-hmm.
fib, because it was every week I was giving everybody an
Yeah.
update. So, um, and so I'm wondering, you go through this whole recovery. Um, I think I don't think you raced any mountain bike races, but you did a bunch of cross races that year.
No, I actually raced 2 mountain bike races.
Okay,
Two.
what were they?
So when I first came back, the first mountain bike race I did was Chestnut Ridge 6 hour. And then I ended up, a few weeks later, I ended up going down and doing Red River Gorge, the one and only Red River Gorge
Okay.
100.
So for Chestnut, did you do that one solo? I assume.
Yes.
Yeah, because why not? 6 hours is a short ride. Um, so, so at the end of 6 hours at Chestnut, you're packing up. What are you feeling at that point?
Actually, you should ask the question of how I was feeling before that.
Okay.
Because going into that, so I'd only been back on the road for about a month, on the trail a couple times. But everything was, as far as training wise, everything was leading up to being able to do and complete a 6 hour race or a 100-mile race. I actually got talked into staying because I was actually 2 seconds from actually pulling rope and going home. Just mentally, I didn't think I was there. The one person that actually reached out, again, this is one of those where friends and community kind of, help out. Gary Ledstrom, good friend for the last several years, kind of was like going, dude, you got this. It's just a normal day for you. I'm going, dude, I'm broken. He's like, nah, you're fine. You can do this. You got it. And so it was Gary basically talking for almost about an hour before the race,
just to get you
Yeah.
ready for it.
Yeah. It's actually the first day I met Garth too. I mean, I knew of Garth, but first day I met
You had
Garth.
heard of the Garth.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like all of that is completely justified. Being scared, being overwhelmed, being, even if the ortho tells you that everything is fine, there's no convincing that thing between your ears that it's fine until you actually have that occurrence happen. That's like, oh no, it's like you fall
First,
and you like fall down on your shoulder and it doesn't break, and you're like, oh, okay, this is okay. So that's kind of where I was going with after Chestnut, you're packing up. Like, did that just feel normal to you, or did it feel
at that
like
point
a
in time,
huge weight was lifted off your shoulders?
At that point in time, it felt normal. Everything felt normal again, as far as going through the motions of I'm a bike racer.
Yeah.
I'm an endurance athlete again.
Right.
I mean, that part felt normal. It was everything that led up to getting to that was just so foreign because one, you haven't been in groups. I think I was only out like twice to see people during that entire healing time. So it was yeah. So it was a dark. There was some, as I said, it was a dark moment, at least in the last 4 years. But being able to have people to talk to, be able to get back into the swing of things.
Yeah. And now you're back completely in the swing of things. Like, things are far different than they were at that
Way
time. And I
different.
think a damn sight better for you in a number of different ways. And you've ticked off some big boxes this year. And that's good. But the present and the past exist. What we want to know about is what do you like? What's the next big thing that you are trying to chunk off? What do you got going on in the future that you're like chomping at the bit to make happen? Because I like living vicariously through you with things that I have no patience to train for, no desire to train for, and just be like, my friend Michael's awesome. So what do you got? What do you want ready to chunk off?
I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do in the next year because there's so many things up in the air.
Oh, God.
I know I want to make
Everything.
one. Yeah, I know I want to try and make one more swing at the NUE. But I think that's kind of played its course with me for various reasons. It might be time to start branching out some more. I know I've been toying with possibly getting into cross country again as far as short distance, but not really all that serious. I know I want to try and make some of the stuff down south in like Arkansas. Garth's been talking the last several years to get me to go down there with him to race. He's also been trying to get me to go to Pisco with him and do those races
Pisco?
over there.
Yeah. It's supposed to be awesome.
So it's that. I'm toying with targeting Joe's stuff. I'm kind of toyed with targeting his cross Ohio, it's Trans Ohio. Seeing if I can attack that. I just don't have a time truck. Why? Why not?
But why is it the specific accomplishment, or is it going after and competing with?
Oh, just to give Joe shit.
Okay. I mean, it can be whatever the motivation is. I don't really care. That's why I would do it, but I'm also very much in the same boat as Doug. Like, I'll watch you do it.
Yeah, no, but I like that
step
it's
of the way.
I like that it's, hey Joe, hold my beer.
But to me, the thing with that is if you went and took it, the first thing that Joe would do would be to congratulate you and then start plotting his revenge.
Well, the first thing Joe would do would actually, he would probably volunteer if he
to help you.
Listening. The first thing he's probably going to do once he hears this is going, "Oh, dude, when are we going?
When can I drive the van?
All right. The second thing he's going to probably ask is, why don't we do it on the tandem?
Actually, I wonder who has that record.
And it's not there.
Then what are y'all waiting for? This sounds fantastic.
Set a record that no one will ever touch.
That no one will want to touch.
Right.
But yeah, I've been like, some of the things I'm actually targeting have become bigger. Crusher again, possibly. Toying with possibly looking at whatever they're calling, what was it, Unbound? Yeah. Maybe trying to throw my hat at that, at the XL.
Whew.
Yeah. But things have to settle down a little bit. Not saying I want normal, but I want settled. Things being consistent.
Yeah.
That's the bigger thing.
I think that's something we're all just desperate to find that and feel like there's no algorithm with making choices about those sort of things. And I know that you're battling that as well in a bunch of different ways, but I'm kind of surprised, but I'm also not surprised that you're starting to target even bigger events, because it's a natural escalation. But also I'm forever impressed with somebody that can have such a demanding full-time position, but also be so committed to putting in that many hours in the saddle. It is something that I watch the time that you put in, and I'm like, I don't know where it comes from. I don't know what. You're one of those people that makes me feel like I'm not doing enough. Like I'm not doing enough of something.
That's where we can talk, because I think we've had this conversation before. It's not so much trying to compare you to me as far as being able to go out and do something and being able to hit some of these achievements. It's more of, can you think about doing something like that and then being able to manage your life accordingly to it?
Yeah.
It's taken me, it took me years before I got to this point. 6 years six or seven. Ryan will correct me. 6 or 7 years working with a coach, and with that, it's just being able to develop time management and what you can do. So you don't necessarily have to go out and do the epic things I do on the weekends to be able to accomplish that milestone moment. So say like if you want to hit that 120K, that Rondi, if you want to hit the long distance Rondi, I mean, you just focus yourself on that. I mean, that's basically what it's come down to for what I'm doing now. So I stopped trying to compare to other people, even though I still kind of do, but it's less on going for those, doing the KOM comparison. Now it's more of like, oh
yeah,
you guys are doing 5 races this year. Shoot, I can do that.
Well, that's healthy. That's healthy.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to position that in terms of how does somebody get into endurance sport and endurance mountain biking specifically is, yeah, you don't go couch to ultra marathon. You go couch to 5K. You go couch to mile. Like, and you slowly build up, because like for you, reorganizing your life to do 12 or 14 hours over 2 days over the weekend is a lot of that stuff is already built in because you've been doing it. You've been working up to it, not only from a fitness perspective, but from time management and organizing everything in your life and all of the people in your life and those sort of commitments. So the fitness, yes, has to come, but I think it goes in tandem with trying to figure out how to manage putting all of that time in. So I think they go really in tandem. And I think for new folks to find endurance sport like that, it does seem overwhelming because they can see like, oh, Michael went out and did 7 hours a day. I have to go do 7 hours or I'm not going to ever get there. And it's like, no, that's that.
No.
Yes, that's where you need to get to be at X level, but you don't go A to X. You just don't do that. And I think looking at it from a position of more of that myopic perspective of I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. And that's like through this whole pandemic, what my kind of fitness regime has been for myself, because that's really all I'm worrying about sustaining right now is just that like level of not feeling like gross, but also doing enough to where I feel like I'm actually accomplishing something and not throwing away my time. But it's always important to have somebody like yourself say, no, this is not normal. You don't get there in a day.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize, because I've been asked how to go about a lot of this. I mean, even though I'm not a coach, I mean, I do have some experience. And the first thing I tell them, I'm going, do you think I just started doing this? It's taken me since 2008 to get to what I'm doing now.
Right.
And it's taken, granted, I had to do a lot of learning, but it took that much time. And while we're still a society that bases everything off of instantaneous, knowing that something takes so long in order to build to be so good, in a perspective standpoint, not trying to be a legend in my own mind, but it's more one of those that
capable of doing.
Yeah. The human, a person's capable to do whatever they set themselves out to do. I mean, if either one of you were to ask if you could do 100 miles, first thing I want to say is tell you guys, I think you asked me this, John, is like, can I do the Rondi, the long distance? And the first thing I think I said is like, yeah, you can do it. No problem doing it. It's more of, can you get yourself to that point? And so you have to start looking at it as the small things. So, and that was the one point I brought up when you guys did your achievements things. It's like going, well, which one? And you thought it was going to be like 15th or second or what? Like, no, it's like, well, first time I did a full lap without feeling gassed.
Yeah. Yep.
First time I got the first 100K distance I did, not race wise, just first 100K.
Yep.
It's looking at those aspects of being able to do something and being able to check those boxes, which allows you to be able to do, oh, I can do a 100-mile NUE race, or I can do the Crusher XL. I think it's the XL. And do those events, do those longer events, or say I'm going to do Trans Ohio or Dirty Water. I mean, it's being able to do the small achievements, you know, consistently in some aspect, whether it's be right every single day or be able to get up to 100K or 200K or whatnot.
Yeah. So I think this is kind of where we get to this kind of distillation point, and I'm curious to ask you this question, because I think as we've had the conversation tonight, we keep coming back to some very specific thought processes and themes and spaces that you function in, and we've got plenty more to discuss at a later date, and we need to have you back because there's a ton of places and rabbit holes we have not gone down, and I want to do them because I think they're fascinating, and I think we're giving people a kind of a primer here of where you're at. You've done all these things, you've gone through all these struggles and all these spaces. What do you think that you would like to leave with the Pebbles from all these conversations tonight that we've had, with something that they can kind of take home and lean on in their space?
I've actually been thinking about this because not that I didn't know it was coming, but
You know it's coming. You know it's
you
always
always
you
know
know
it's
it's
coming.
going to happen.
So one of the things that kind of was brought up was nothing's ever for certain. Something I kind of learned, and actually one of my friends brought up from the past. Don't ever look past something. So like whether it's an event and say like just going to work, you don't look past going to work. It's just focus on what you can focus on at the moment, and build upon it and be good at it. You don't have to be great. You just be good. You can work to be great. And so that's basically as of right now, it's kind of where we have to leave it without having further discussions on other aspects, because time builds greatness if you really look at it.
I like that you frame it that way, because I think that's important about how we approach these things. You can be present in that space and legitimately focus on where you're at and the next piece of it, because as you continue to do that, you end up from 2008 to 2021 doing something wildly different. But you've built that because it's just been your natural path.
But and even more than that, like the thing that I take away from that statement is going back to something that you said, and actually saw a comment come through about there's nothing better than being in the woods and not having, like, just being in nature, not having earbuds in, being attuned to what's going on and being in that moment, and not being in that moment. Like personally, I found myself in getting ready to train for, or in doing the training for the Rondi, of some of my rides being like, just go check the box to get to the next one. And then it started to feel like work, because it was like, well, what am I actually, I'm just going, like, I'm not taking advantage of this time that's a big chunk out of a weeknight or a weekend that I could be spending with friends, family, loved ones, all of these things. And being present in those moments, no matter what present looks like, being in the woods, being able to see, bunnies hopping around, or the foxes, or any of the other cute stuff that you post on social media, like any of that stuff, and just being in that moment, not looking by it like I'm just doing this to get ready for Crusher, or I'm just doing this to get ready for Rhonda, or like whatever the case may be. Like, those things matter. Those are all moments in your life that, like, you're not going to get them back. So like, don't screw it up.
The world will pass you by if you don't look.
Exactly. 100%. 100%. And too many people are spent just not paying attention, looking way too far down the road.
Yeah.
I love that. That's good stuff. Dude, this has been awesome. Like, we could do an 8-hour podcast, just like you can do marathon bike rides. We can do an 8-hour podcast with pee breaks, probably. I think
Probably.
We'll have to have a feed break too.
feed break too. We can do those too. That's for sure. Folks, we're going to have the AMA here for a little bit. If Michael can stay on, Michael, I hope you can continue to join us for a little bit. Well, we've got some questions that have been rolling in, so we want to make sure we get to those with Michael and address those. As always, a huge thanks to all of you, our Pebbles, old, new, whether it's the first time you've joined us because you know Michael peripherally, or you've been with us for quite some time and know Michael as one of your fellow Pebbles. We cannot do this without your support. So head on over to our Patreon. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Twitch, do all the things in all of the spaces, and visit thegravellot.com to learn how to become a supporter of us in many and varied different ways.
And it wouldn't be an episode of the Gravel Lot without our amazing partners. I think Doug and I have actively and kind of aggressively not referred to them as sponsors because we don't look at them as sponsors. They are like our family of our show, and that's why the names don't change. That's why they are just the same sponsors all the time, because they have kind of bought into what we're doing. So in addition to your support that keeps all of these lights on and helps purchase the new mood lighting that Doug has behind him that looks so good this week, be sure to go visit all of our partners. The links are in the show notes. We're going to talk a little bit about them now, but just go support these people because they are helping us continue to bring this thing to you each and every week.
Absolutely. If you want to get some super dope faded jerseys that look kind of like
ombre, not faded. Ombre, not
whatever.
faded.
I don't know all those words. Whatever. Color grade. I don't understand any of this nonsense. But if you want to get some super dope new threads, go check out BFRB, Be Free Rides, Bikes, Cycling Apparel. Awesome stuff. We've been working with Adam for several years right now. We are always blown away by the quality and attention to detail and the communication. We work with Adam on some stuff and get feedback back and forth. Awesome dude. If you need new apparel for your team rolling into 2021, make sure to get with him at bfrbcycling.com and he will get you sorted.
We are also supported by Dan and all of the folks at Grimport Brothers Coffee, offering you small batch hand roasted coffee. And I'm continuing to spoil myself, but this week I am going to have to
send my coffee. Dan, send my coffee.
Yeah,
Dan.
I'm going to have to we're going to have to mix it up a little bit because my wife is going to have to go off of caffeine, or at least cut back on the caffeine. So thankfully I found the Mo Bruno Roy blend. There is a decaf Grimport Brothers, but the cool thing about Dan is that every one of his coffees, like I said, they are small batch, hand roasted every week. They go out, they're packed by him, they're roasted by him. They are amazing. Like I never considered myself a coffee snob until I think I had like 7 days in a row over the holidays where I actually like ground the beans and then made coffee.
Done.
And then when I went back to work, I tried to make myself a cup of Maxwell House, and it
was not the best part of waking up.
It was not the best part of waking. No, that's Folgers.
Whatever.
What is Maxwell House's jingle? Anyway, it doesn't matter because it's
the best part of waking up.
They need to make a jingle because their coffee sucks. And you guys should buy Grimport Brothers coffee. So what I was getting at is all of Dan's blends go to support some sort of cyclist, whether it's an actual athlete, if it's an event, if it's a cause, all of these things. But you can go to grimportbrothers.com now, check out all their different blends and read where the money that you put into that specific blend is going to go to, and go buy yourself some amazing coffee because it will make you feel a lot better about your day.
Absolutely. A massive thanks to our friend Mitch at BioWheels Fit Studio and Workshop here in Cincinnati, Ohio, offering you a full host of bike fitting services intended to provide you with the best, most efficient and comfortable, sustainable bike fit you've ever had. Good friend of mine just got a new whip, got fit over there. So very excited to have Mitch as a sponsor of the show. One of our first sponsors back again for another Rondi. So we're super happy to have you back, Mitch, with BioWheels.
Yep, and also returning, as has been the last couple episodes, is the Ritual All Natural Skincare. It is locally sourced, all natural, handmade chamois cream, custom blended for you guys, made right here by hand. And the batches are like 22 tubs each, so they are very, very small batch. And again, it's all natural ingredients. It's all things that you actually want to put on your skin. They are actually good for you. It's not putting petroleum on your private parts and all of these things that you don't want petroleum soaking into your body. So get a hold of us today, like Doug and I today, if you want custom blends of chamois cream for your team, your shop, yourself. Doesn't matter. They are doing all of those things and making custom labels. You can even
Your friends and loved ones.
Yeah,
make one
you can
for
make
Christmas, for whatever holidays, Easter.
Custom scents. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could do like pine
Smell like
scents.
Peeps. Make it smell like Peeps.
Yeah, you could do like sugar. Yeah, like I think
Yeah.
you could probably do like a honey vanilla for Easter. You could do like pine.
You're way too. No, make it smell like Peeps. Just
Right.
get it done.
Well,
Make it smell
I mean,
like Peeps.
Mitch and Kate are making it now, but it's still my baby. So if they're talking about seasonal blends, I'm definitely going to get involved in that. Maybe we could do like a Grimport Brothers chamois cream. That'd be sick.
Ooh, smell like coffee.
Yeah.
That's nice. I'll back this. Also, we're super thankful for our friends at Hand Up. My hat, well, the gloves that I wear all the time because I'm scared of getting hurt, and grinding up my beautiful.
And I got the maize and blue on today. I don't know if I'm like in Ohio if I'm allowed to say the phrase maize and blue.
You can't say that phrase.
My
Don't
yellow and navy.
Yeah, yellow and navy is acceptable. They provide amazing gloves and apparel for bikes, snow sports, if you're doing snow sports, which we should be doing here in Cincinnati right now, and golf, which we can't do because there's a lot of snow. And a ton of awesome designs that are really there to fit your personality. Click the link in the show notes, head on over to their website, and then use code Pebble $sign at checkout to save 10% off everything in their store.
We love hearing from all of you guys. We said this in the intro of the show. Make sure to visit all of our social feeds. We are at the Gravel Lot, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Libsyn, whatever. Just go follow all those places. And then if you want to go find more content, you can go to thegravelot.com. That's where you can find the latest episodes of The Gravel Lot, of Girls Moving Mountains, the latest editorials from the Beeline, and where you guys are going to hopefully in the next couple months see a couple new projects that we are working on popping up. So that is kind of the clearinghouse for all of this, to stay up to date, stay in touch. If you guys want to get a hold of us, you can send us messages on any of those platforms. There's the contact page on the website. Also, the new phone number. You guys can leave a text message or a voicemail to 513-400-5577. I can connect it to Doug and I's phones, but I am very hesitant to do that. So I might just, since I'm managing the account, I might just connect it to Doug's phone. So
That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable.
You'll just start getting a bunch of phone calls.
Our new intro and outro music is from Wadaboy, so many thanks to him for all the jams. Check him out on all the major platforms, or just click the link in the show notes. It's AMA time. All right, John, you want to fire up some questions?
Yeah. So first one we got was from Christopher before we even started recording. And this is such a great start. Which is the better bike food? A baked sweet potato or a baked russet?
How's it prepared?
I assume it's baked.
You said baked.
Yeah.
For both.
Well, I mean, are you doing some olive oil with sea salt with a little Parmesan, or are you just doing straight up?
Fuck this. Just straight up.
Sweet potato versus russet, fight to the death. Who wins?
Wrapped in foil. It's simple. We're just going purely on what they are. You wrap it in foil. You put it in the oven.
Honestly, you really shouldn't be doing a sweet potato. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, those don't really work so well as far as taking in during a ride as you would with a Redskin or a russet. If you were to do something along those lines, I would stick with more of the baby size. And I'll do either bake it. I tend to boil, and then with a little drizzle olive oil, some salt, sea salt is usually, but you can do iodized salt. and that would be the approach I take. I'm a Redskin more person than anything else, but yeah, sweet potatoes I would not really suggest.
Why is it is there like a
It's the
higher?
way the skin and the texture of the potato and being able to eat it while riding.
Okay, so
So
it's not about digestion. That was kind of where I was thinking that you were
no,
going.
no, it's actually, so if you, unless you have like a full, like a fairly decent sized sweet potato, and making sure it is a sweet potato and not a yam, because they do look the same, but they are not. But yeah, sweet potatoes become very, very soft
Right.
in comparison to, and they also maintain moisture when you bake them.
So you do like little mini red potatoes so that you can
That
just
would be this,
chomp it.
like I'm a Redskin style when I do riding, and I ride potatoes. But if you were to do it, anything that can fit into the palm of your hand would be the direction I'd go.
All right. Potato question
I like that.
answered.
Yeah. What if you ground up a sweet potato and put it in like a goo packet?
Now you can do that. I have
Lots of
seen
sugar.
recipes for that. Potato cake would be the approach I'd take on that then.
I've got a recipe from Alan Lim from Scratch's
That's the one.
Feed Zone cookbook.
Yep.
They are delicious.
Yeah, that would be the one. That would be the direction I'd take.
Okay. Second is we only have a couple tonight. It looks like not many people left, so that's fine. What mental tricks did you use to get through the night at the Crusher?
Ooh.
Oh dear God.
That is a loaded question, but I love questions like that.
If Noah asked that question, Noah knows I did not keep my mind straight.
It is not, but that's part of it, though. I think that's part of the answer, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of use it jokingly whenever this comes up. I actually lost some mental functioning around 2 a.m.
So what, like, clarify
I
that.
wasn't processing things. So,
'Cause that sounds neat.
oh no, it's not. So I had a conversation with my SAG, which was Noah Hudson. I don't remember the exact conversation. I knew it involved him giving my keys back to me. And it took him 10 minutes for me to process the fact that he was handing me my keys.
Nice.
So to get an understanding of that, and then past that, it's, I mean, out in the dark. Yeah, you just try and focus on the little white dot that's in front of you. It's about the best.
I mean, is that like that sort of thinking is a thing that like goes in line with what you said? Is just look in the present. Like, was that part of the strategy? Just be in only the present and not think about the fact that you've got to do this longer or any of that? Like,
yeah, well, you got to focus on your Garmin, and you got to focus on the trail. So one, you did an OTB, or two, you didn't go off course. So yeah, this goes for just about any kind of race longer than 30 miles. There's a lot of mental work going into it. So if you aren't prepared mentally to be outside for longer than 8 hours riding a bike, it is a chore to do.
Well, that I guess that was going to be my question, is maybe not specifically to being on your bike for 8 hours, but can you train to do overnight?
Yeah.
Like, can you train yourself, and what are the things that you can do to train yourself and train your brain to be ready to do that? So it does,
You need
like,
a psychologist for that one.
okay. So, but let me ask this. If you were going to do that Crusher event again, how would you prepare differently to help avoid
Mentally.
having that happen
Yeah.
again?
not the physical part, but the mental
Yeah.
part.
So actually, the mental part would actually be part physical. So I know a few people that did sleep deprivation rides, because that's what you're running into.
I know Jake did
you're just
that.
doing a fatigue ride.
Yeah, Jake did that getting ready for DKXL.
So say instead of doing like your normal sleep pattern and then go out and ride for however long you're supposed to ride, it's then all of a sudden you stay up for 40 or for 24 hours, and then all of a sudden at the 24-hour mark you're like going, oh, we're now going to go do an 8-hour ride. That's what you're doing, because at that point in time, yeah. So like anything else, for me, training on anything that's requiring that kind of time away from people, I don't ride with any headphones. It kind of allows me to be within the scene as far as where I'm at. Not saying that headphones will take away and allow you to be able to concentrate on something else, because it will, because you want to be able to distract your mind. But for that, it allows me to have to know when and how my mind drifts, because it happens, and that's what occurred. And just knowing that, well, either one, you're going to fight through it, two, you're going to stop, or three, it's just going to be one hell of a hallucination.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you didn't have to pay for that one.
Yeah.
I mean, you paid for it.
Oh, well.
I mean, and you actually did pay to complete the event, but like, it's a whole thing. You didn't have to pay someone else specifically.
Yeah.
So there's another, and I think this is probably my favorite question, because I think this speaks to the person that you are. And John is kind enough to put this stuff in the questions here, so that I can do this, because if you don't follow Michael on social media, I highly recommend it. It is always a good time. But someone asked, what is the reason that you aggressively post cute animals on social media?
Well, it's one of two reasons.
It is aggressive the way you post animals. I appreciate it.
So if you take a look at the general social politics that occur as of recent in the last 2 to 3 years on any social media device, and you take a look at how people are utilizing their approach to it in their language. And some of it was actually due to the fact of they use that same language when they get into a discussion about anything. And it got to a point, actually got to a head where it's like, okay, I want to discuss about how you properly store tires. I mean, I do have 6 years within the tire industry. My office, I had an office that was in the warehouse of a facility. Might know something about this. In person basically told me I didn't know what I was doing. And it just, as I said, it got to a point where it became toxic. And we can actually, when we return to past life experiences, we can talk about how some of this occurred in other aspects, but it was more of, instead of having a negative aspect being projected from someone, it's more of, how can you get mad at a cute animal? I mean, straight up. Like,
yeah, it cuts through things, and it stops everybody right in their tracks.
And I've noticed that it's the same aspect as an aggressive driver buzzing you, and instead of you screaming and yelling, you blow them a kiss.
I've never done that. I might have.
You haven't? It's quite entertaining.
No, I've said thank you a couple times.
I should have done that to the guy who threw the Snickers at me.
I mean, if you're looking at it from that aspect, I mean, it's something that you're not expecting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's diffusing the situation in an interesting way. Well, it's become a go-to for you, and I think it's
almost a brand at this point.
Yeah,
it's not even necessarily like a go-to.
Yeah. Wait, I thought my brand was the groundhog.
I mean, it definitely is the one that was outside your window, but you're working from home, so you don't get it.
Oh, that was at the last office. I don't have that thing anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, but he became part of it, which is part of why that and potatoes is part of the reason why we lovingly scream tater hog at you regularly.
You do.
What? It's mostly me. That's
It is.
mostly.
Yeah.
I just only think of you as Tater Hog forever. But I think that is cool to like use it as a method to like check people and keep people in a space where they're like, okay, wait, I'm being kind of a jerk. I need to back myself off.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that the people that you want to project it to, or the people that you want to see it, don't realize this.
Right.
Nor will they address it. And no matter what you do, you can't fix that part of it. You can't necessarily call someone out or tag someone in this, in that aspect. It's more of, well, people are seeing enough negative things. Why don't we get something positive? I mean, it's like going into YouTube and turning on the Dodo's channel and watch some of the Pitbull rescues. I mean, come on, it's the same thing.
Yeah, you could just put on parental channel to like keep all the crap out. You're like, parental controls for me.
That, and plus it makes great for your timeline recaps, because I had some few that came up the last several days that have been nice.
That's good. Always good. Just getting good animals, not just like X's and horrible things you don't want to remember for sure.
Well, and yeah, I think hopefully in the next couple years we're going to figure out as a species how to manage social media to where go to the like, I feel like we came as close as possible to the precipice with previous administration in terms of how close we could get to blowing each other up with social media. But I feel like just like anything else, I think I want to say we talked about it with JB of like how people struggled with going to the 24-hour news cycle, or how people struggled when TV came around, that it was just like, oh my God, I need to watch TV, and like it's this new thing and it's the new craze, and then you just kind of adapt and it becomes white noise.
Yeah.
And like I it's interesting to watch my wife interact with the kids that are coming in, 18, 19-year-old kids as freshmen in college, that have always they've had all of these platforms their whole life, so they are just white noise to them. Whereas us, we grew up with like corded phones, and AOL came around in high school, and like for us, it's still like we're still those like monkeys on ego trips with social media, and I like to think that we'll get to a point where we will be on the other side of it and actually start to use it as just another platform, just like TV, just like radio, just like all of those other things. But sure shit, there'll be something else that comes along that is the new, like MySpace turns into Facebook, turns into Twitter, turns into TikTok, turns into God knows what.
I know this is going to light a fire, but it still needs to be said. It's when people don't realize that freedom of speech actually stops at your keyboard. And I say that after running a game forum or assisting administrating a forum for a good 4 years.
You can say whatever you
want. We can get into the arguments about all that, but
speech is free, consequences not.
Yeah, and you said I have a couple stories on that.
We'll get I'm all about free speech conversations because they're always good, but people don't understand that, and I think John nails it, is there are consequences. You say whatever the hell you want. You can yell fire in a crowded theater, but you will pay, and it will come to get you.
You go to speak on someone's private channel, and you find out how fast you get turned off.
Yeah, see, like if someone came on our show and they started spouting some nonsense, first we'd hold their feet to the fire, and then we'd be like, "You gone, pancakes, peace out." This is how that works.
Like I said, I have a few stories that actually can demonstrate this, and that's why I kind of like, I know what's going to occur, but you have to realize that it stops at the keyboard.
Yep.
Well, we're kind of watching that play out on. I mean, I watched it all afternoon play out on TV today, so.
Yep.
I was knee deep in compression calculations, so
it's probably a better place to be. It seems like a better place to be.
It's definitely a more constructive place to be, because it seemed like one team brought a team and then the other one just brought like, I don't know, some hobos.
No, you said one team brought Tom Brady, the other one brought Tom Arnold, and it was beautiful, John.
Yeah.
All
one
I
team showed up
know-
and the other one just sent like the water boy.
All I know is that the opening discussion or argument, or however you want to say it, was something I used to my mom a long time ago. You want to know what happened? I'll give you the short story of that. She put me on my ass.
Yeah. Yep.
My mom's 5'5".
Yeah. That's pretty much how it's going down. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, just from I heard about what the opening argument was, and I'm just saying, my mom literally laid me out.
let us pray that is how things move forward into this following space. So, well, Michael, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you for taking time to spend time with us. It is good to see you. We have not seen each other in so freaking long, but it is so good to see you and to hear your voice and to just Korean dad. It is awesome to spend time, and we really appreciate you coming here to be with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
So that's all for this week, Pebbles. Be sure to subscribe, engage, and follow us, because as you know, decisions and trails are made by those who show up. So if we don't see you on the trails this week, we'll see you next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.